yes, we all love our mothers and our significant others, but they're not bookkeepers. We don't want to
Yeah.
hire our mothers
Yeah.
and our wives and our husbands to do bookkeeping
Absolutely. You're right.
because something's going to go wrong there.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Conversation with Muse. On this episode, we are going to be speaking about the shmoney, financials, accounting, a little bit about the business side. So, we're going to be diving a little bit into how to structure your finances if you are a business owner, what that looks like, how you can get help. I have the talented and the amazing Claudia with me on today's episode. Hi, Claudia. Welcome to the
Hi,
show.
thank you so
How
much.
are you?
Good. My first podcast.
Hey, we popped your cherry. Your podcast cherry, that is. So I'm so excited to have this conversation with you, but let's just go ahead and start. So for every episode, I love to start with just like an icebreaker. Sometimes I do this or that. Sometimes I kind of just switch it up. So this episode, I want to do if you were stuck on a deserted island,
Mhm.
what are the three books that you would take with you that you can read for the rest of your life?
Well, that's easy. Harry Potter's one, two, three, and then somehow put four, five, six, and seven into the third one, and then just bring all of it with me. Or
Okay,
I don't know. Do they have all seven books put together in one
like in a,
binding?
I'm sure they, well, not in one bite, but I'm sure they have like the package, where they have all seven. But okay, so if that's one collection and you can take that with you, what else would you take?
So I've just recently read a book called Educated by Tara Westover, and I really couldn't put it down. So definitely would have to be one of the books I would take with me.
Okay.
And a third book that I would have to take with me is probably, I mean, do we consider notepads a book? Because I live for a good notepad.
Okay, so that's it's not a book, but I can get the concept. So you can jot your thoughts down, maybe do some journaling. Okay, so that's I'll take that as a okay, so a notepad. Now,
Yeah, definitely a notepad. If post-its are not in that equation, probably some post-its too.
Claudia, you're on a deserted island. You're taking too many things now. You have a case of books, you have notepads and post-its, but we'll go with let's say we'll go with notepads. Well, yeah, notepad because that's counted as a book, so that's fine.
It's a book.
All
It's a
right.
book. It's an empty book. It's
True.
got
So
good
you'll fill
memory.
it with your thoughts while you're there, and then they can turn it into a book by
A
Claudia.
memoir of me
Ex-
deserted on the island.
exactly. I want you to tell the audience a little bit about who you are and kind of a little bit about what you do.
Sure. So everyone, hi, my name's Claudia. I am originally from Brazil. I moved here when I was 10, and I am now an owner of a bookkeeping and consulting accounting practice. And the way that I got into it was just because I really wanted some job stability and job security in my life. Moving here from Brazil, one of the reasons why we moved here was because of that, because of, the American dream, being able to be secure, being able to be financially stable, and opening up this practice for me was the answer for that.
Mm.
And yeah, and then that's basically the reason why I got into it. Aside from accounting, I love thrifting. I love doing things that are outside, planting, all that good stuff.
That's fun, nature stuff. So, if you were to put a title on kind of what you do, would you put a title as bookkeeping or would you put the title of controller? What would you put a title on it and call it?
So it's an interesting question because I guess the answer would be all of the above.
Okay.
It really does depend on what kind of position you would hold within the company that you're working with.
Okay.
If you're working with a one person business, maybe you're just a bookkeeper.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're working with a company that has maybe a payroll of 15 employees, maybe now you're the controller or you're a finance specialist. So I have been my main title is president of my business,
Yes, yes.
but I have been an accounts receivable specialist, an accounts payable specialist, a bookkeeper, an accountant, a controller, a finance specialist. So it really does depend on how you see yourself within the business that you're working with.
Okay, which makes complete sense. So where in the like company's organizational structure would that sit? Because you speak about, if it's a one person business, then you're probably the bookkeeper. But if you're in an organization that has like a CFO and people that are the financials, where in the organizational structure would you fit?
Well, I guess that also goes back to how large the business is.
Okay.
It could vary. I do think that at in some businesses you hold various different positions, and you're kind of in many different places at the same time. So I guess you could put yourself, below the CEO at some points,
Okay.
whereas you can put yourself below the CFO in some other companies. So it sounds cliche, but it really is a matter of what kind of business you are working with ultimately.
True.
The businesses that I work mostly with are businesses that are either taking off. They're kind of like in that stage where they've done well enough to hire an outside consulting company,
Yes.
but they're just not at the level where they can hire a full-on staff accounting team.
Hmm.
So those kind of businesses I would consider to be sitting, I guess, right below the CEO, or if they have a finance specialist somewhere in that area.
Okay. And
Does
this
that answer your question? Did I
No,
completely go?
no. You definitely did answer my question, which kind of triggered another question for me as far as, so are you technically working in tandem with the CFO? So if the CFO is building strategies, they're saying, hey, Claudia, we can only spend this amount. So kind of help us budget how we spend that money, or how money is coming in and how we can allocate. Would that sound, because I'm just trying to get a perfect understanding for myself, really.
Mhm.
Does that sound
So,
accurate?
yes and no.
Okay.
A lot of times, the owner of the company, if they don't have a CFO, they are the CFO.
Yes. Yeah.
So in a way, it's kind of like very collaborative work, because at that point, the owner of the company is the CEO, is the CFO,
Mm-hmm.
has ideas, knows the industry,
Mm-hmm.
has some idea of what they want to do for budgeting. And then we kind of come together and we collaborate, where I present the numbers and historically what has happened in the business
Mm-hmm.
or in the industry. And then, that's where it kind of, it just becomes like a one-on-one sort of project,
Okay.
unless they have that sort of setup in their business. And I think it's interesting too to sometimes do this kind of budgeting exercises and accounting and finance related exercises with some people that are not necessarily CFOs, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe that are sitting at the top of the business. Maybe they have a president that doesn't necessarily focus on the finance. Maybe they're more focused into operations.
Mm-hmm.
But even
Yeah.
someone like that is perfect to collaborate with. It's good to put minds together.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. That's perfect, because I wasn't even like thinking operations either, because it does go in tandem and some of like decision making and money and all of that stuff. So how does your
Definitely.
business help other businesses streamline their finances?
Well, I guess before going into the streamlining part, the main reason why my business provides an advantage to small businesses or growing businesses is because I bridge the gap between the CPA firm that will ultimately file the tax returns
Okay.
for the business or the individual,
Okay.
and then the internal accounting. So what I focus on is the internal accounting aspect.
Got it.
So the bookkeeping, the payroll, the sales tax, things that a CPA firm typically wouldn't be involved in. And if they would be involved in, it would be at it wouldn't be as of a closer relationship, let's say.
Got it. Okay.
So I come in and I am in your business's numbers. I am looking through your financials. I am looking to see, comparatives where things went, into crazy numbers, let's
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
But the way to streamline that is by obviously putting things into a software
Mm-hmm.
where, and in this case, most companies do use QuickBooks, and basically seeing your business's vitals and the health of your business
Yeah.
in one platform. And funny enough, you would think that, okay, that's common sense. Everyone has a set of QuickBooks files, but that's not true. I've worked with businesses where they have business accounts and personal accounts,
Uh-huh.
and they're using their personal accounts for business related expenses. And so those expenses never make it into your financials.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at your financials, you say, oh, wow, my expenses for contractors are very low. I've only paid $1,000, but really you've paid, let's say, 5,000 in your personal account.
Got
That's not
it.
even there.
Got it. Okay.
So, there's things that I put in place to help streamline a business financials and tax prep, let's say,
Yes.
that are basically that it's putting together, things like, hey, one is business, one is personal, keep it separate.
Mm-hmm.
All the business will go into, a software that can do all the things. So not only will QuickBooks, host your books, it'll also file your payroll. It'll
Mm-hmm.
help you calculate sales tax and all of the things that could have been taking you hours to do. Now, is streamlined in a way.
I love that because I think one of the biggest things that you just highlighted, which just resonates with me, is for businesses. Initially, when I first got into business, everything was just kind of clustered. Business, personal was just all together. So that's a really great point where you're saying you're paying contractors and maybe you're paying it from one account and it's your, because you go to that account all the time. It's like natural, like, let me just pay it from this account, but it's a business expense or whatever that is. So with you saying that, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you've seen businesses like do when it comes to their accounting?
Well, it's growing pains, I guess you could say.
True. Yeah.
Every business starts small. Obviously, some have funding, some don't.
Yeah.
But accounting, from what I've seen, the experience that I've had, kind of gets put in the back burner until it's time to file.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
March 15th is the deadline for most businesses. And, February 15th, people are scrambling. They don't know what they're doing. Taxes are going to become due. What's happening? What's going on? Yeah. So
That's me. That's so me. But go ahead. And I get stressed.
Yeah.
Like I get hives literally thinking about tax season, not because I don't pay my
Right.
taxes, because it's thinking, oh my gosh, is everything for the business like structured or, sorry,
Right.
continue.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And so then, that part of not focusing on the accounting aspect of your business
Mhm.
is something that I've seen, that really hurt the business in the long run. And, you know, yes, we all love our mothers and our significant others, but they're not bookkeepers. We don't want to
Yeah.
hire our mothers
Yeah.
and our wives and our husbands to do bookkeeping.
Absolutely. You're right.
Because something's going to go wrong there.
No, you're right. You're absolutely, or if some random family member, it's just like, oh, I know to use Excel.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so I do see a lot of that, and as a matter of fact, a lot of the businesses that I work with do have a family member in place doing the bookkeeping.
Mm-hmm.
But so long as you have someone like me, let's say, kind of doing the review and the consulting, that's
Yes.
totally fine. As a
Yes.
matter of fact, I train anybody that is not a professional bookkeeper
Mm-hmm.
to become one, or to at least be dangerous enough.
Okay.
So it's okay to do that, but you have to have other places, other people in place to sort of check your work and make sure that things are, done correctly.
Okay. So kind of you coming into the as a on the consultant front, because we know that someone can outsource their entire accounting business to your brand, and you guys kind of just take it, run with it, and do what needs to be done. But you're saying on a consulting level, you're able to just come in, and I already have my sister who does my accounting, so you're able to come in and say, okay, show me what you guys did last year, and then kind of just clean that up and just put things into perspective, so next year we're not in a jam per se. Yeah.
Exactly. And also to correct what they've been doing wrong.
Yeah. Okay. That's perfect.
So we always, and the thing for me is that one of the things that I've noticed with other people in my area is that, the things that they know, they keep to themselves. And I am totally against that. As a matter of fact, if I ever have anybody that is referring me clients, and maybe I'm not able to take that client for whatever reason, I'm happy to introduce my competition to that referral myself, because I really do think that, it comes back twofold. So I have, I have this program that I use on the computer where it kind of records my screen and my voice.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I speak to a client that I know is doing something absolutely wrong, that can be so easily fixed, I train them. I send them this video and I say, listen, this is what you're doing wrong.
Yeah.
This is what you need to do to make it better. And, these are the things that just kind of elevate the business without you even trying. It's
Absolutely.
just, you're trying to share good knowledge.
Absolutely.
So
I'm a school of that same thought. I'm a school of that same thought, because I feel like when you learn teach, and your sauce is your sauce, no one's going to do what you do. Like Claudia have her sauce, and you and I can like cook the same meal, but the way you prepare it may be 10 times better because it's your sauce, right? So I definitely appreciate that, and not thinking that if you shared a client with someone that it's not going to be reciprocated in the long term. So that's really, really, really good.
And in that same example too, it's not even so much about, my sauce being different than someone else, but it's about maybe my recipe wouldn't be as good if I didn't have someone doing it right from the beginning.
Gotcha. Absolutely. No, that's really good. I can just go into like ramble on about people who just kind of hold things near and dear to their heart, and not saying it's not your business, it's your brand, which is kind of why we do the podcast, is to share information with people and just kind of scratch the surface a little bit so they can kind of think about what they're doing. So as far as the accounting, scratch the surface so someone can be like, but wait, am I doing the right thing in my accounting? Do I need to outsource it? Should I be hiring someone to do these type of things? And what are some of how should a business owner, or someone that maybe they just started a business, or they've had a business for a while, medium-sized business, whatever it should be, how should a business owner prepare themselves to be in the best financial position for the business?
Well, to be in a good financial position versus being organized in your accounting department is different. So being financially in a good financial position is something that does vary with every industry and how every company is set up. Sometimes the funding for a business really doesn't come until after the accounting is organized. So it really does vary. But, when I get on a call with a client and it's a new client and they tell me, hey, I'm starting a new business, I basically lead them into the area of, hey, first things first, get a business account. Second thing, put everything in the business card. Don't use your personal. Make sure that, your annual reports are being filed. Make sure you have a QuickBooks file set up. So you have to take those steps before you're even looking at the financial position of a company, because you can't even do that if you don't have the whole picture of the business, of the spending, maybe history. Maybe you need to have 3 months history to see how the business has been performing before even discussing the financial position. So again, the answer to everything is it does vary, but that is true. That is true. And I think that that's the beautiful thing about my business too, because it is not a cookie cutter, one thing fits for everyone type of service. It varies with literally every company. even if you're in the same industry, it's going to be different.
Completely different. No, you're absolutely right. And I love that you brought back the idea of it's not cookie cutter. Um, because we say the same thing. Well, I say the same thing in marketing. And like we had to in college, I will never forget this. We had to build a like kind of position your business. And the one thing that I always said to myself, because I've seen it and I'm sure you've seen this with accounting, there would be an accountant that comes in and try to do everything that they did for every other business for this business. And it's just like a company would be like, well, I hired this person and they didn't do it. Da, da, da. So the idea that you're saying it's not cookie cutter, it's tailored for every single client differently, is a unique place to be, right?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And you have to consider also the client's needs,
Mm-hmm.
but also the client's wants. I have clients that come to me and they don't want to talk to me for the entire year until it's time to file the taxes,
Yeah.
believe it or not.
Wow.
Then I have clients that want to be very involved. So we create shared worksheets.
Mm-hmm.
They have visibility fully of their books and where expenses go and how things are classified, let's say. So it's a matter of not only making it customized for the actual accounting work, but it's about also taking the time to understand what the client's wants are and how they want to work with you, for the future.
Yeah.
Do they want to text me? Do they want to call me? Do they want to email me?
So that level of communication is just made clear throughout the entire process.
Right.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You kind of mentioned that, some of the things that a business should do is make sure they separate the business and the personal, have a business account, have some kind of setup where everything is getting put into like a QuickBooks or something. But what are the 3 tips that outside of that you will give a business owner when it comes to their accounting, as far as just their finances and the overall business, outside of do the business and the personal separate?
Well, I think the one main tip that I would provide is the one that we already spoke of, which is you don't want to hire someone that is not experienced in bookkeeping to do the accounting for your business. And again, it's something that I've seen so often that can really cause some problems down the road. I've seen tax returns have to get amended for, errors in the bookkeeping itself. So that would probably be my first one. The second one that I would provide tip wise wouldn't even be so much on the accounting and consulting services that I would provide, but it would be more of to do a good research of the industry that you're in.
Okay.
And a lot of my clients, they come to me and they ask me about, hey, can you help me get a credit card, or can you help me get a line of credit?
Yes.
Can you help me get funding for my business? And, one of the things that I bring up all the time are SBA loans. Mm-hmm. And not only SBA loans, but loans from, the city has grants, the county has grants, the state has grants. There are federal grants.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I also, the second tip is to do your research when it comes to funding and creating, ways for you to have additional funds for your business, is to do, research. Mm-hmm. And the third thing that I would provide as a tip is to always have payroll for yourself. And what does that mean? When you are a business owner, there's really 2 ways that you can take money out of your business. Mm-hmm. You can either just cut a check to yourself, and that would be considered a distribution, or you would run payroll for yourself or for your staff. And a lot of times what happens is the entrepreneurs, the business owners, they don't set up payroll for a very long time. And they just continue to take out distributions and distributions and distributions. And what happens is, you're not withholding taxes throughout the entire year. And then you're hit with a big tax liability. And, they come to me and say, Claudia, how is that possible? Look at this business. I didn't even make that much money. And the answer is, well, you've taken out money without processing it through payroll, and now you're going to have to pay the taxes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's very easy. I know that accounting sounds complicated and it sounds like a headache, but accounting can actually be a lot of fun and it can be very easy, especially because we're in the year 2022 now. And everything in a way is already streamlined for you. It's just a matter of making sure that you have everything in place to make it work correctly for you.
Mm-hmm. Literally, you're talking and my palms are sweating because when you mention about, doing payroll for yourself and comment, like mistake number one is just to swipe that card, swipe that business card, swipe that business card. So the three tips are getting someone that knows what they're doing, which I think
Yes.
is chef's kiss. Okay, perfect. Getting someone that knows what they're doing,
Doing the research, your
doing
market research
doing
for
the market
funding.
research, and then also paying yourself or just making sure that you have some kind of a payroll system set up. That is
Right. And I guess in a way too, where I was going with payroll is tax planning.
mm.
So it's very important to do tax planning in general.
And
Even if you are in the first year of your company and you don't foresee any income, you always want a tax plan because there are a lot of things that businesses owners don't really necessarily think of that can come into play
mm-hmm,
when it comes time for you to file your taxes. For example, I myself have, I have the income for my own business,
mm-hmm,
but I also have rental income that I collect from tenants that my husband and I have.
mm-hmm.
And when you put those together, those two types of income together, you're now suddenly in a whole new
Different
tax
bracket.
bracket, and
Yeah.
maybe you'll owe more money.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have known that if you didn't do the necessary tax planning to anticipate either a difference in your tax bracket or an estimated tax payment that should have been made on your behalf. So I guess I'll also add a fourth one in there, which is tax
Tax
planning.
planning, which I
Yeah.
love, but I would love for you to just elaborate a little bit about what you kind of mentioned it, but to you it seems so simple, right? So for someone who is listening, how do we make that as elementary as possible to be like, what does tax planning include? Does it simply just mean doing the payroll like you mentioned, or what other facets of the equation is there that we didn't just say, that someone who's listening needs to
Right.
be like, oh, shoot, I never thought about that.
Right. Well, when it comes to tax planning, the first thing you want to do is obviously find someone that you can tax plan with.
Okay.
If you go to H&R Block, let's say, if you have a point of contact there, that can be your first start into tax planning, is reaching out to a contact and saying, hey, it's getting to that time of the year. I really need to take a look at my overall finances and my tax standing for the year.
Mm-hmm.
Can you help me out? But if you're doing self-filing, so if you're going on TurboTax, let's say, and you're doing your own tax returns,
Yeah.
or if you don't necessarily have a point of contact, then you'll just go wherever, the tax service, I guess, is the most convenient or the least costly, then, you wouldn't be able to tax plan. So as far as tax planning, the first thing you want to do is find the right point of contact.
Okay.
And if you find the right point of contact, I sure hope that they'll be able to turn all this terminology into, very elementary,
Something very,
easy to understand. Right.
yeah, no, that's
And
perfect.
right. And that's really, what tax planning is about, is just finding the right person that knows what they're doing, that can explain it to you in easy terms. And from there, you just allow that person to ask the right questions
Mm-hmm.
and do what they have to do in order to, basically present you the correct or the estimated tax planning. And you just take it from there. And it's really quite that easy, because at that point you're just answering questions. Did you have a change of status during the year? For
Mm-hmm.
example,
Mm-hmm.
did you get married or divorced, or did you lose a spouse? Did you have any? Did you invest in any stocks that you didn't in the past? So it's really just a matter of you saying yes and no and finding the right person to put those yes and no's together in a
Yeah.
way where they can see the big picture.
Yeah, because I think thank you. Like, thank you for that because a lot of, especially pandemic years, right? In the last 2 years, a lot has changed with a lot of people, where now they have invested in like crypto stuff or they've invested in stock and now somehow everybody is on the stock market, which is a good thing, but if those questions aren't being asked by the person that you're tax planning with or a preparer, then you wouldn't know to bring it up because you think that it's nothing. Even if you just spent, say, $2,000 and that $2,000 haven't really amounted to a $10,000 return or any significant return, but you still need to just say that to the person that's doing your taxes, yes? So you can kind of see
Right.
what it does.
Exactly. Because what's going to happen is the person that you're going to go to when you file your taxes at the end of, or in April, let's say, if you're doing your own taxes, they may not ask you those questions. They may just say, was everything the same as last year? And maybe you're in a rush, or maybe you didn't think twice and you just say, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, everything was the same as last year. Meanwhile, maybe, you invested in crypto,
Yeah.
or maybe, you did have a change of status that you just forgot to mention. Or maybe this is actually an interesting one too, because, with the IRS, when you're married, you can file married filing jointly
Mm-hmm.
or filing separate.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll never know what the best scenario is for you unless you take the time to plan that out with whoever will be filing your taxes. So it's not even just a matter of letting the tax preparer know what different has happened in your life during the year, but also to strategize
Yeah.
and see how are things, gonna end up in your plate for you. And if you don't strategize soon enough, you may not have the adequate time to make the steps within the year that you're filing for. So that's another thing too. You're limited to the time that you have to do the necessary tax planning and moving
Yeah.
and the shuffling of the funds and whatever else it may be. For example, I have a couple of clients that at the end of the year were showing a lot of profit in their businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, listen, you have a little money set aside, you're showing profit, we need to lower this. What kind of expense does your business need that you've been holding off on that maybe, you can spend at the end of the year? Oh,
Okay.
we needed to buy this pickup truck. Maybe now is the time. Absolutely. Go and get this car before 12:31. you know? So it's those kind of things.
So I really love what you mentioned about, getting all the stuff that you've done in the year to your tax preparer or just say, hey, this is what I do. So that's really great advice. The last thing I wanted you to do is to tell everyone how they can get in contact with you for your services, where they can reach out to you if they want to use you for their business or recommend you for someone else's business. How can someone get in contact with you?
Sure. So definitely the best way would be to shoot me an email,
Mm-hmm.
Claudia at accountingcontroller.com. That's my business name.
Perfect.
My website, accountingcontroller.com, or Instagram is fine as well. And my handle name on Instagram is accounting controller as well. Um, and that would basically be it. I don't have a work line, so everything comes through my main phone, which I actually love. And I'm also available via text message or a phone call away as well.
Perfect. So we'll go ahead and link that for everyone. It will be in the description if you're listening on any of the streaming platforms. One last thing. So I ask this on every show, and I would love to hear this from you. What is one piece of advice that you've gotten in the past that you hold dear to your heart and you still go back to even to today?
One piece of advice. Well, this wasn't necessarily an advice that I received, but it's something that I follow with, that's very close to my heart and that I follow with a daily basis. And that is to never worry about how much money you're making, worry about the relationships you're cultivating. And that will bring in the money that you want to ultimately make. I do believe that the success I've had with my business so far has been because of the relationships that I've made and the people that I've met. And I think that, when I come up, they all come up with me.
Mm-hmm.
So if there is one advice I ever want to make is to just build good relationships.
That's perfect.
And that's that. And then everything else comes from that.
Kind of happens. Yeah, that's a great advice. And I just want to piggyback that with Kanye West said something like that the other day. And I was just like, because he spoke about just having his backpack, because he was like, I don't need money. Anywhere I go, I know people because I've had relationships. So when you say that, that's the only thing that comes in my head. It's just like, money will come. If you're doing what you love and you're doing it right for the right people and doing it with a clean heart, then the money will follow. So I love that, Claudia. Thank you so much for that. That's really great.
In twofold.
Yeah, amazing. Again, Claudia, thank you so much for this conversation. I felt like I learned a lot from this conversation because we've had money conversations on the podcast in the past, but this kind of puts it into a more structured concept. Thank you guys for tuning into another episode of Conversation with Muse. If you've gotten to this far and you enjoy the content that you heard, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, like, share, and tell your friends and family members about us. And if you are listening in all the streaming platforms, just go ahead and share it with your friends and family. Thanks for listening to another episode, and I'll see you guys next time.